Welcome, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Jason. Good morning, Arthur. It's great to see both of you this morning. And I'm particularly excited about the interview that we're going to hold this morning, because we're going to talk about one of the most in-demand programs that we have at SPS, and that it is the Data Science and Analytics program. And we have two of the brains behind that program here who will talk about what that means at SPS. But before we even get into that subject, I'd love to very briefly go through a little bit of your story. How did you get into higher education? Why data science in particular? Maybe you started studying or doing something else and ended up here. So let's start in the order.
Let's start with Jason. His background is a lot more interesting than mine.
Oh, geez.
Very good. Well,
Sure.
Says so. Jason, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, it's been a windy path to data science for me, as I like to say it. So I did an undergraduate in mathematics, which led me to be a software engineer for about 10 years. I lived through the dot-com bubble. And when that bubble burst, that's when I looked at graduate schools and thought I would be a math teacher, really. But because of my mathematics background, was recruited by the statisticians in the educational psychology department. And so did a lot of work with them. My dissertation was methodological, more, its contribution to methods was greater than the content, although I really love the content. And so I don't know, probably about 7-8 years ago, I got recruited to teach the Data 606, which is the stats and probability class in here at CUNY SPS, partly because I had authored a whole bunch of R packages to do various things kind of related to education, and eventually got hired as a tenure track faculty. And so a lot of my work is around R programming, stats methods, and alike, and really, really enjoy it.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason, and welcome.
Thank you.
And Arthur, how about you, Arthur?
I am yet another example of how there is no such thing as a data science fixed career for data scientists. I actually started out as a newspaper reporter. A journalism degree from the Syracuse University. Fell into a bad crowd and get a career on Wall Street, and became very fortunate to become a corporate officer of two big Fortune 500 companies. Took early retirement, got into data science simply because I was interested in the way data works and how you can do digital storytelling with it, and was fortunate enough to get a job here as the department head some 7+ years ago, and just very delighted to be in a field that combines both quantitative analysis as well as creative abilities to see problems in a whole different light and find creative ways of looking at things, which is why why so many people are sort of drawn to it.
If I could add something, I always like to say to my students, there's a famous statistician of the last century, John Tukey, who famously said, one of the greatest things about being a statistician is you get to play in everyone's sandbox. And I think you can replace statistics with data science, right? You can do data science in virtually any field. Like every discipline needs a data scientist now. And so that's fun. You get these skills and you can work with all sorts of people.
Yeah, and it's a great segue to the presentation that you have prepared for our audience. But it is, as both of you have said, a skill set that everyone will need to develop currently and into the future. Things like data visualization. How do you interpret data? How do you show that data in a way that is easy to digest, easy to interpret? Those are skills that could serve any student, actually any adult during their careers. So with that, what I will do, if it's okay with you, I will share the presentation that you have prepared for our audience, who I would like to remind, if you have any questions for either Arthur or Jason or both or me, and would like to put it on the comment section, please do so, and we'll do our best to try to address it. So with that, I will move to the first slide of your presentation, Arthur, and you'll take it from there.
Okay, great. All right, thank you so much. So I just have a bunch of slides. I'm just going to zip through them real fast because I want to get to the Q&A and sort of engage you on the questions you might have about this exciting field. So just to talk a little bit about our mission here at SPS, we're here to help our students earn the credentials and acquire the knowledge and skills for your next career move or advancement. Most of our students are already working full-time. They want to get ahead, so we offer advanced programming instruction at a very, very reasonable cost relative to traditional schools. That's the tuition on that bullet. And we have very reasonable requirements for acceptance. We don't require a GRE. We look for a GPA 3 or better, but we factor that more of a guideline rather than a hard and fast rule. And we're very proud to say we're a very highly rated program with a growing market recognition. We were ranked #1 by Fortune this year and one of the most affordable data science programs. And even more so, what we're proud of, we're ranked in the top 10 in the nation on online master's data science programs this year by Fortune magazine. Our value proposition is we believe this is one of the best investments you can make in yourself. Data science, as Jason was explaining, is really what's called a hybrid job. It involves both technical and creative thinking. It's one of the fastest growing and most highest paying occupations. And we at SPS offer a mix of video lectures and asynchronous learning that helps you get your degree by more easily balancing your work and personal life and studying time. And our tagline that we tell everyone who will listen, we help you advance your career without interrupting it. You don't have to quit your job and go to school full time. You can do this while you're working. Just to give you an idea of what the sort of salary bases in data science are, this comes from Birchworks, one of the executive recruiting firms that specializes in data science. The light blue is this year. The dark blue is the previous year. And you can say from both the individual contributors, meaning someone with no direct reports, but with various levels of years experience, or the manager level with the number of direct reports there, you can see that the growth rates and the absolute levels of salaries are pretty attractive.
And let me stop for a second, Arthur. If you can go back to the previous slide. I think this is a critical piece of information. This trend actually is continuing. That it comes from several years back, and it shows to be one of the highest demand professions. So I'm glad to hear both of your personal stories, because for some members of our audience who might think, well, I didn't study data science in undergrad, or I started working in a different field. It does not matter if you focus on the content and the programs that we offer. You could become quite knowledgeable and proficient in data science and can aspire to what is a continuously growing field in the market. So please continue.
Okay, thank you. So this is what we teach, and you can sort of bucket it into 4 areas: data acquisition, management, and programming. How do you get data? How do you get the right data? How do you build a data model to represent what you're trying to model or simulate or analyze? Math and statistics. What manipulations do you do to that data set in order to develop knowledge and explore relationships that may not be obvious? And the modeling is the design of models and the testing of models and the relative strengths of different models and their different predictive abilities that generally in the machine learning world basically boil down to either a regression problem, a classification problem, a clustering problem, or dimensionality reduction. And then, of course, the last bullet, dissemination. How do you express these concepts from a very practical level to, probably what most of your results you'll be communicating to business people, so people with not technical backgrounds. So it becomes very important to express yourself in clear, concise, plain, and easy to understand language. As I mentioned before, we offer a mix of synchronous and asynchronous. We focus on not so much test quizzes and exams, but projects that you can produce and upload it to a website and put those links into your resume. We're very keen on what hiring managers keep telling us. I want to see students. I don't want them to tell me what they can do. I want them to show me what they can do. And that really does help. And we do foster teamwork and collaboration, and we do a fair amount of community building as well. This is the timeline. Now, the deadline for has passed, but this gives you a sense of kind of how we work. The application deadline for this coming spring semester that starts in January was December 8th. We offer 3 bridge workshops. They're free for those students. As I mentioned before, most of our students are working adults. They're working full-time. Some of them have been out of school for a while, so we offer these 3 free workshops to help them get up to speed, to prepare them in order to ensure they'll be successful in our program. The boxes in the light blue are the required courses. You have to take 7 of them. The ones in dotted lines are any one of those 3 courses as electives.
Now, could you go back for a second? Sorry, Arthur. Those three bridge workshops, how can students find out more or prospective students find out more information about how to take them?
Well, you have to apply in order to be qualified for taking those bridge workshops. We do have a description on our website at CUNY SPS that provides a quick description of what those workshops are. But the best way to do it is to apply. It's a little late to do that for the spring semester, but if you start the process, we'll be starting the process.
For the fall, there's still plenty of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
When
is the deadline for the fall?
They haven't set it yet, but it's usually sometime like mid-spring.
Excellent. Okay, great.
So,
now let me interrupt for a second. I posted a question on the comment section as well, based on what both of you have said. Is there a minimum level of math that prospective students should have before they apply to the program?
I should ask the math major to answer this, but that's something that we struggle with every day. How much linear programming do you really need to know? How much calc do you really need to know? And I think Jason and I both believe you need some amount of calculus. That really does help. How much linear programming do you really need?
Some of that's covered in one of our courses, 605. So
right. So it's conceptually yes, but do we really need to learn how to do matrix manipulations manually? No. So if you can have the concepts down of that, I think you'll be in pretty good shape. And if you demonstrate that, we have that bridge workshop in data science math that helps you get up to speed.
Okay, great.
Anything you want to add, Jason?
No, I mean, I like it when students have at least like a college algebra course completed. That would probably set you up pretty well. In terms of calculus, I always do a crash course in the calculus concepts in 606 to help students. We're not going to ask you to calculate derivatives or integrals, but if you know what they are, that makes some of the statistical concepts easier to understand.
Okay, so you would say a minimum of college algebra.
Yeah. That would be good. That's good.
Great.
But you don't have to be a math major.
Great.
No, absolutely not. And in fact, going back to my earlier comment about data science being pretty broad, I think I'm seeing a trend in the data science world where people with social science backgrounds are in demand who can, do some of these skills, but has some of the social context as we start to learn what the ramifications are of predictive models kind of out in the wild, whether it's now, what is it, Chat GPT that's just out, or, you know, these art generating systems, you know, what are the implications? What are the ethical issues? So I think social scientists who can learn this skill will be in demand in the marketplace.
And to build on Jason's point about the universality of data science, I wanted to share with you just a sample of some of the recent Capstone projects. I teach the last course in the program. Jason teaches the first course, and I just want to give you an idea of just how universal data science is in terms of just the variety of topics. You know, the art of the wine review, looking at the way sommelier wine reviews are written. Are there certain patterns in that? One student, you know, if Parkinson's is very hard to detect without any sort of intrusive thing, but there's a certain speech impediment that is associated with that. And can you diagnose that just using vocal recording data? There's analysis of musical structure to explain listener ratings, whether they like a song or not. There's measuring the hurricane season related risk premium for energy commodity prices. Fruit tree disease detection. So using a convolutional neural network just to look at the tree to see if there's something indicative of just the visual computer recognition of the image of the tree that you can detect a type of fruit tree. Just all sorts of different applications.
I see for sports enthusiasts, there's also NFL Dynasty League. Predicting wide receivers.
It is universal. It is universal. It has a bunch of very fascinating and very interesting applications. So just to wrap up really quickly, and so we can get to the questions, we have very reasonable requirements. It's at a very reasonable tuition. We're a highly rated program taught by experienced industry professionals. We offer a convenience of our on-learn model, and it's certainly a fast-growing, interesting, challenging, and a well-paid field.
And can you tell us a little bit about your, I don't want to call it typical because there's no typical student, but the wide range of students, those who you think tend to be the most successful in the program, what type of attributes? Not necessarily skill sets or even previous education, but what attributes do you identify in the most successful data science students?
This is another topic that Jason and I debate almost constantly. To date, we have, we've focused on those people that have a programming background and have a quantitative background, and hence, it's been 80% men. We are starting to see, well, how can we broaden that acceptance? How can we increase the diversity by attracting more of the social science types, which tend to be female? And how do we do that? That sort of focuses our requirements not necessarily on your background, but your interest, and more importantly, your motivation. As Jason's done a lot of research in this, and a lot of the research he's done shows that it's just the general motivation of the person, which is actually a stronger predictor than their background, than their technical background. And so we're struggling, and we've done a bunch of different initiatives. Jason, you can go into it if you want, but how do we accommodate that?
Sure, I'm happy to put in a plug for. Right now I'm, in addition to teaching in the program, I'm running a $3.8 million Department of Ed grant, where we're looking at college transition, specifically with undergrad students. Although students in my course get a taste of it, and we call it Diagnostic Assessment and Achievement of College Skills, or DAX. What we're trying to do is rethink the sort of placement entrance exam and sort of the onboarding process, what makes our assessment is it's completely open source, it's free, and there are no stakes. So we're not actually placing students. We're trying to give them feedback and resources to be successful. And so, as Arthur was alluding to, we had, as part of our first grant, which was through FIPSI, we did some data collection at 2 online institutions, kind of similar student populations as SPS. And we found that that our self-regulated learning assessment was more predictive of student success than prior content knowledge. We did a study in 2020 at the University of Albany with more traditional age, where we actually had SAT scores, and the correlation of our 10-minute, it takes students about 10 minutes to complete this self-regulated learning assessment, and you get immediate feedback, was higher than their SAT score for their freshman GPA. So to Arthur's point, what is a successful student? A motivated student is a successful student. We have the tools, like we have bridge workshops, we have very dedicated and engaged instructors. So we can help you kind of fill the gaps in content knowledge. We find it's a little bit harder to change people's motivation and attitudes. It's possible, but you got to want to do it. And so we have skills, strategies, and resources for students to do that. We have lots of recommendations.
So let's say I'm Jason. Let's say I'm a student or prospective student who comes from a different career, not a technical career, but
like a newspaper reporter.
Like a newspaper reporter, exactly. Yeah. And I am contemplating this area, this discipline, but I feel uncomfortable or unsure whether I have what it takes. Is there a way in which I can either explore or seek more information or maybe even have an opportunity to learn the basics so that I can confirm whether this?
We get that question a lot, and we offer a list of MOOCs, massively open online courses that are offered for free. And they're not a substitute for our program, but it gives people with no technical background, no quantitative background at all, an exposure to some of the concepts that we teach in the program. And our advice is check out these courses, look at applied math, look at regression techniques, look at a data acquisition course, EDX and Coursera and Udacity, and there's all these resources out there that are listed and there's a meta site called Merlot that just collects all the free online courses for a person, and we ask them to check that out. And there's some of them that kind of get discouraged and give up, but there's some of them that go, oh yeah, okay, I can get this. But it does. But Jorge, you're right. There is a hump that they have to overcome, and it's the math phobia. And
I imagine once you overcome that hump, you become fascinated with the field, and
because you start to understand it. But you say the word algebra. And that just scares the living daylights out of a lot of people.
Yeah, I think what we need to keep in mind is the end goal. What can you do with knowledge? The fascinating type of work and questions you can answer once you know how to pose the right answers and know the fundamentals. I do have a question here from Michael, who's asking, how does advanced artificial intelligence and machine learning factor in the human element of data science? If any of you would like to take into that profound question.
The honest answer is nobody really knows. There's a great deal of thought that's gone into machine learning that makes a very powerful argument that to date, meaning current state, most of what's called AI is not really intelligence at all. It's very sophisticated pattern recognition. And we're still a long way from true AI, or general AI as they call it. But it's going to be interesting as all hell to see how that evolves. I think, Jason, we were talking about the chatbot, GPT, and some of these large language models are just kind of scary. how
It's pretty impressive. I've been playing with the
It is. I mean,
and
it is.
it's amazing what it can do.
Yeah, I know. I
Jason, I don't know if you have any
I still think AI is still a marketing term, and
Yeah.
AI I think we're still pretty far away from that. There are people doing research. I mean, we don't really fully understand how the human brain works and makes decisions, and so things like neural networks are an attempt to mimic that. But as Arthur pointed out, it's I think of machine learning as we have some target and we have some data, and believe it or not, a lot of these things boil down to correlation coefficients and pattern matching, or sort of variations on that calculation that we've been doing for a century. Just we can do it at a scale with modern computers that
using speed and power.
Right.
Yeah.
But the human element, I think, what I was alluding to before is, for, I don't know, the last 10 to 20 years, we've been running these predictive models because we have the data and we can do it. So for me, the human element is starting to recognize, starting to ask the question of, should we do this? Not just because we can, right? We see, controversies around, Facebook leaking data and, what they're predicting. There was Google's image classification that was classifying gorillas as African Americans, right? That kind of thing is, we can't keep doing that. And when I talk to students, the parallel I always talk about is when the social sciences sort of post World War II, there was research that put participants at potential harm, right? And out of that process grew institutional review boards, or IRBs, who have to review research with human subjects before you do it. And I think physics went through a similar thing after the Manhattan Project. I think physicists really think about how their work is being used after the atomic bomb was developed. So I think data science, that human element is like, we need to start considering the ethics of AI and machine learning before we do it. And I see some positive movements in that direction, which is encouraging to me.
Good. So let me switch back to the program for a moment, given the few minutes we have left of the interview. Our program is fully online, asynchronous, which for those who might be listening means that it is not in real time via Zoom or via a system like the one we're doing right now. So it might be, in the minds of many students, very challenging to learn about data science and analytics in an asynchronous fashion or modality. How have you been able to crack that code and become a highly ranked program? Any thoughts on how you have been successful?
Well, I think the bridge workshops is one part of the answer, and the other part is that every week there's a real-time weekly lecture, which is recorded for those students who can't make the weekly lecture. But it's a video class, just like this one, where the professor is explaining something and students are on the board through Zoom, and they can explain kind of how to do something, which is part of their homework assignment or the lessons that they're covering. And by having that one synchronous component, I think that helps a great deal.
And as instructors, we're available for students when they need us. But I do agree that live component, even if you can't attend, enough students attend to ask the questions, so you're benefiting from that live interaction. And I know I speak for myself. I try to keep it to roughly an hour. I lecture for an hour, but there are very many nights where I'm on hour and a half, 2 hours. Students stick around and keep asking questions. I stick around. And so I think, I think we have a dedicated group of instructors that really care about the students learning what we want them to learn or what they need to learn to get a good job.
Yeah. And I'm being witness to one of your sessions, Jason, and they're very engaging, very interactive, very valuable. So the trick here is try to do it or accommodate it at a time and a date that works for most. But as you said, even if you cannot attend in a synchronous fashion, you can watch the recording. So both Arthur and Jason, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk
Thank
a little
you.
bit about this fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
great. Thanks.
This
was fun.
It is indeed. I put on the comments section, I put the link to the data science program at our website. So you can go there and look at the details of the curriculum. But I wonder if anyone in the audience is interested in getting in touch with either one of you. Do you have a preference for how to do it via social media, email, phone?
All of the above.
Yeah.
All of the
We're
above.
listed
All
there
of the
on the website. We have a courtesy email address, but yeah, just go to the website. You'll find us.
And what is that? What is that email? So I can put it on the comment section.
On the vanity, data science at SPS.
Data science at sps.cuny.edu.
That's it.
Okay, I just put it on the comment section. In any event, the link to the website also gives you different data or different ways in which you can get in touch with the data science department. So again, Jason, Arthur, thank you so very much. Very, very helpful. Look forward to discussing AI and ML in more detail in the future. I'm interested in getting your thoughts on DALL-E, how you can create these really, really interesting images just from a phrase.
I waste a lot of time on that.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So
All right.
have a
Thank you
great
so
one.
much. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks, Jorge.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.